Cineboys to Cinemen episode 107.
107, yes.
Got there. We did it. Hope you're well wherever you are, whatever you're doing. This week, Rose of Nevada.
Yes. A Mark Jenkin movie. The second Mark Jenkin film we've done.
Yes.
We did Ennie's Men.
You said that was episode 5, right?
I think so. I might need to double check that.
That doesn't seem that long ago, but...
No, it was a really early episode. I remember because I was still doing research at the time.
Right,
and I was
okay.
treating the podcast with a lot of sanctity, which
Right.
I still do, obviously.
Oh,
but-
yeah, of course. Yeah.
But that was one of our really early episodes. Went to see it at the Watershed, and yeah, it was all very.
Did we see it together?
I can't remember. I hope so. I think we did. Yeah, because I was going on to you about the lens dirt in it afterwards.
Oh, yes. Yeah, okay.
But in the meantime, Mark Jenkins made another film.
Yes.
Another film on his Bolex wind-up camera, which is his kind of signature style. And
Another foray into his homeland.
Yes.
Yet to leave it.
Yeah, he
as
has.
well.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yet to leave Cornwall.
Yeah.
Do you think he ever will?
I don't know. It'd be weird if he did. I don't know how it would work.
Yeah, I mean, I think the sort
I'm
of...
sure it could, but...
His style seems rooted in those themes, doesn't it?
Yeah.
So
yeah,
I think if he made a film in like Barcelona or something, it would. I mean, it would take on a different shape.
experiment.
Yeah.
Yeah.
If you listen to this, which you definitely are, Mark, come on. Then yeah, I'd like a screenplay credit for your next film set in Barcelona.
So with it being his film, of course, we'll talk a little bit about his previous two films. Obviously, the aforementioned, we've covered them probably quite a lot already.
Yeah.
Back when, but it seems appropriate to touch on it.
Definitely, yeah.
And then also we'll talk a little bit about films that focus on the idea of a death of a community.
Yeah.
Which is a sort of strong theme, I think, in
yeah.
Rose of Nevada. Well, lots of people think. I'm not the first person to think that. But it's
Hot
huge.
take.
Yeah, me first. It's a huge theme, and I think it inspires a discussion, again, about a topic we haven't really spoken a great deal about, I don't think.
No. No, I think with regards to that, it's something, even though we've covered quite a lot of different topics over the years, I don't think we've discussed this in any detail. Maybe a little bit when we talked about bait on the last one. I'll have to revisit that episode and make sure it's not the exact same episode, except with nicer cameras this time.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Also, did we say this in the outro in the last episode?
Yeah, we did. Yeah, we've got a spot in a proper studio, so any of our listeners / viewers on YouTube will notice there's a slight uptick in quality. So
yeah. You can see my gormless face in HD, which is, I'm sure, a treat for everyone.
I spent like 6 hours in the mirror before this, just making sure that my appearance
shows.
Oh, yeah, thank you very much.
Right, should we get on to it?
Let's do it.
Questing the cinematic void.
Okay, then. So, films about the death of a community.
Yeah.
For the first time in probably about 4 or 5 months, I've actually made notes.
Oh, amazing.
I've stepped up.
Yeah.
To the,
along with the quality uptick, there is a research
hastily
uptick
scrawled.
in that. You'll notice that our phones haven't come out yet, and we were like,
No,
who directed? Yeah. Although I have already forgotten who directed one of them, so we'll see how that lasts. I don't know. Did you want to start with your with?
Well,
one
I
of
guess
your
it's
picks?
sort of somewhat pertinent to sort of talk about how that's kind of framed, particularly in the case of Rose of Nevada, right? Because that's, I guess, what's central to that is that community is attached to industry.
Yes, definitely.
And when that industry dies, the community dies or goes with it, I guess.
Yeah, or clings on for dear life.
Yeah.
And a lot of people inhabiting that community and who make up it are sort of, I mean,
psychologically affected by that slow decline.
But then there's a sense of pride you get about the past, which makes it difficult for them to leave, I feel.
Yeah.
And that's definitely a theme in Rose of Nevada.
Nostalgia sort of hangs over the film, doesn't it?
Yeah, definitely. Oh, I mean, and all of Jenkins' films, I mean, it's part of the...
Sort of in spectral fashion. It just it's interesting in Rose of Nevada particularly because there's a kind of a double-sided view of it. It's not entirely negative, which I thought was interesting.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah.
But obviously, we'll go into that a little bit later on. But yeah, obviously, death of community attached to an industry, or the death of a culture that is attached to a community as well.
Yeah.
And I guess it's always about people, as you say, living with it, struggling to live with it. or fighting against it, or the sense of dignity in holding on to the kind of old values that are kind of slowly dying.
Yeah,
That's
definitely.
quite a big theme as well.
I'd say, death of an industry is probably the one thing that will kind of, as a blanket, be across all the films we discuss, because it all starts with how money is made, I suppose, and like obviously how that kind of enriches, not the money per se, but like obviously it enables the people to live in the community. So, and yeah, I mean, I really, really enjoyed a film recently called Traindreams, which is about.
I still haven't seen it.
Yeah, no, it's all good.
A lot of people, including you, have been telling me to watch it. And I
think-
still haven't got round to it.
I think you'll like it, and especially if you liked another film that I'll discuss in a bit, called First Cow. It's set in a similar time, but slightly later.
I've seen that one.
Yeah. You've seen First Cow, yeah. In fact, you're a big fan of the director, right?
Yeah,
So,
yeah.
Right. So, Traindreams came out quite recently. It was sort of like, I don't think it won any Oscars, or maybe it did for like cinematography or something, but yeah, it's set in at the end of the American West, very much like, I mean, that's how it starts. It starts at the kind of end of the American West, and it follows like a logger, basically. And it starts out when he's like reasonably early on in his career, if you can call it that. And it charts his basically entire life from early adulthood to like right before the end of his life. And that industry, the idea, like the kind of gathering wood, starts out very primitively. It's just men with axes, basically, and they're basically gathering this material for like the railways and the expansion of America and the kind of birth of capitalism and all that kind of stuff. And it just follows him, and it's him trying to provide for his family. It's the community in question in this film is very much the industrial community. He doesn't really live in one. It's kind of homesteaders. Like their homes were very spaced apart. Like there's not like Rose of Nevada where it's like a small town or a village, I suppose. And yeah, it just charts this guy's life as this industry slowly dies and gets replaced or mechanized. And as he ages and becomes less familiar with the technology around him, the technology itself takes over, and it's not cynical. It's actually quite. I think the one interesting thing about Traindreams, which the other films don't necessarily share, is it sort of accepts this transition of technology as inevitable, and I just think like that is quite a unique way of presenting it. It's not like pro AI or anything like that,
Right, no.
but it's very. I think the way it handles it with a lot of care, and also. There's something that happens in the middle, something quite tragic, which I won't spoil for you, actually, but it sort of informs the decision-making process of this guy played by Joel Edgerton moving forward. And yeah, this is really powerful film. Really surprised me, considering it was a Netflix release. I was like,
yeah, I remember being struck. I mean, I only saw the trailer and and I think I watched stupidly because I hadn't seen the film, but I watched like the kind of. What's the cinematography magazine called? Is it called The Cinematographer? Probably is.
yeah.
But them talking about it and the way it was shot, and I just remember thinking like, this is a color palette you don't tend to see in a Netflix film.
Yeah, completely.
It's almost completely devoid of yellow, which is
yeah,
rare.
And it's not got that weird milkiness to it.
It just looked like filmic.
Yeah, I think it was shot on film,
Not
and
to be trite. But
I think it was shot on like old lenses as well, which is almost a cliche these days. You get a lot of that a vintage lens, that kind of distortion, but it really it complements the film. It doesn't work. It doesn't kind of clash with it. It's very textured and very. I'd love to have seen it in the cinema, because I imagine you'd get that like granular detail that you sort of.
It did have a limited run in the cinema, doesn't it?
Yeah,
like a lot of these Netflix films tend to.
I was really late to it. It was straight up like it'd been on streaming for a while by the time I got round to it, which is a real shame, because I think I got put off by just how kind of boring it looked.
Oh, really? Okay.
I do. I'm guilty of that sometimes. I see a poster, I'm like, that looks like the same as 20 other films, like kind of Netflixy.
I know what you mean.
Oscar baity films. And then and someone told me it was really good, and I gave it a go, and I was so glad I did, because it has that, like, Assassination of Jesse James. It has that kind of like you're peering into the past kind of
Okay.
feel. And
Yeah,
very methodical and very slow, but very nice and very character driven. So yeah, I'd give that film a go. Traindreams.
Yeah, the idea of kind of focusing on the death of technology, or I guess like the practices that you would attach to more of a kind of, I guess, founding America.
Yeah,
That's quite a sort of significant sort of thematic motif through a lot of those kinds of movies set around that period, right?
Yeah, yeah. It's quite a popular place in time to set a film.
Yeah,
actually.
because it's the time where it's like the kind of mythology dies in the face of like rapid industrialization, right? And then that what happens is there's a huge movement. People move to urban centres, and it leaves those communities on the fringe. And the people that sort of try and stay true are just going to get,
left
not
behind.
destroyed, but their industry certainly will be, and their way of life will change drastically as a result.
Yeah.
And I guess it's interesting that the treatment of that isn't particularly cynical.
Not
because
really.
to me that induces immediate cynicism.
Yeah, it does invite you to get outraged, but the character in question is very accepting of it. He's like, it's kind of like, people who are perhaps, in the sort of like older years trying to grasp technology today. There's a kind of like, when you just sort of talk to them about said technology, quite often there's a kind of like, oh, it's just, I can't do it. Like, and it's not like they're not angry. They're just like, well, this is this now, and I can't get to grips with it. And you feel like he's just sort of slightly baffled by it. He's not like starting a union or anything or fighting it. It's just because he's such a small cog, and he's very unremarkable as a character. So for him to do anything remarkable would feel out of place. So he just accepts it. And it's really, there's a scene at the end, right at the end, which I kind of don't want to spoil, but I'll explain what happens anyway. He's in a plane. It's one of the final scene, and he's just in a plane circling. And I think the idea is he can finally see higher than he's ever seen before. And that, the same way that if we put on like VR goggles, or I don't know, like when the first time you used an iPad or something, like it's kind of like that wonderment, I suppose, that he's experiencing in the closing moments of Traindreams. And yeah, there's just a lot to
I guess there's a wonderment to human innovation, isn't there? It's just the people driving it is often where the question should be. Leveled.
Definitely, yeah. And the film does have that in patches. There are other characters who are a lot more outraged about, like, the fact there's all of a sudden it's like a chainsaw. They have a big debate about a chainsaw in the film towards the end, because they're like, "Oh, this is us ruined."
What is this?
Yeah. They watch someone use it, and they're like, "Oh my god!" Like, and then they have like a conversation about the good old days, which is quite interesting. But yeah, I definitely thought it was worth mentioning with regards to the destruction of an industry, because it's handles it quite a unique way, I thought. Anyway. Yeah. Good special film.
Yeah, I mean, thinking about the kind of death of, I'm thinking more in the case of the film, I was going to mention the kind of death of a culture.
Okay.
Have you seen Tampopo?
No, I haven't. No.
Okay, yeah. It came back up weirdly because I bought it for a friend's birthday, and I remember I was like, oh, hang on a minute. I was like wrapping it. I was like, this film will fit in quite snugly. It was quite a nice thing. But yeah, it's a Japanese film. Essentially, it's about a failing. I think it sort of posits itself as a ramen western.
Wow. Okay.
So it's like about this sort of struggling ramen shop, and there's a truck driver who professes to be like an expert on ramen. He basically helps this lady and this family.
Oh wow!
With their business to try and get them back. So he's kind of like sort of helping them, I guess, reconnect to their culture and who they are. And that's something that's kind of dying in the face of like the globalized world, which is something that comes from technological innovation, right? The idea that, obviously it's great that people can share ideas, but obviously what happens a lot in the film is that people go to like these big chain restaurants and all of these places that are kind of like basically pushing all of this, the stuff that has always been there to the periphery.
Oh, right.
And it has this kind of impact on, I guess, not only the enthusiasm for your sort of heritage and the traditions that are so sacred, but it almost kind of destroys it. No one wants, why would they go to this ramen shop where they can go get something easier, quicker, faster somewhere else?
Oh, okay.
So it's this kind of idea, and there's like kind of like slimy businessmen involved, and they're always eating at these like horrible chain places.
Yeah, right. The long road to pot noodle. It sounds like just in the sense that like obviously it starts with like a sacred tradition, right? Like something very rooted in being home. Sorry, that's probably a very insensitive way of framing it, actually. But and then gradually it gets, like, for lack of a better word, sort of watered down, this concept, until the idea is that anyone can have this delicious thing.
Yeah, I guess
is that right? I don't know.
I think so. I think it's kind of more in the sense that, you know, because of globalization, because of, you know, countries opening their borders and allowing businesses to come in, these businesses don't really come in with the mindset of how do we kind of assimilate into this culture in a meaningful way. They just slap their restaurants around, all their businesses, and it obviously will have a knock-on effect on the local community because they can probably offer something that they can't.
Price, maybe like some kind of price
possibly,
decrease.
yeah. I don't know. I'm sort of going outside of my skills here.
Well,
no, but you know, I think at least in the context of the film, that is what's kind of eroding away. It kind of values, and also the craftsmanship behind it. So there's a lot of focus on the craft of making like a good ramen and all of the kind of way you treat all of the individual ingredients. And you know, I often think a lot of other kind of food cultures in other countries is a lot more established than it is in England.
Yeah,
I think we have it to a degree.
Yeah,
I think it's maligned perhaps overly unfairly by people outside, but you know, I think, you know, I don't think we really have that.
No, I totally agree.
And it's almost like a sacred attachment to family and tradition and your broader culture and your sense of identity, I guess. And
I think in England we have a weird, we sort of have a slightly unhealthy obsession with co-opting other cultures, and in terms of food anyway, and kind of like making it like kind of bastardized version of it, right? Like, I'm just thinking with. Yeah, like a lot of things people think are British are just not. Even like a lot of Americans think like hamburgers are theirs. It's like, well, it's in their name. It's not. Yeah, I think Tom Holland said that actually.
Oh, really?
yeah, in like an interview. Anyway, sorry, totally interrupted you there.
No, that's all right.
But that sounds really interesting as a film,
and it's really fun. It's like it's one of those films that kind of balances spins a lot of different plates, I guess, thematically speaking.
Yeah.
But there's a lot of emotion through the film. There's like a real strong emotional spine that kind of keeps it all connected to that very idea and how important that is, you know.
Yeah.
It doesn't sort of eschew the idea of innovation entirely, nor is it kind of encouraging this kind of insular attitude, you know, not accepting other cultures. But it's about this idea. It's not necessarily the sharing of ideas that's the problem. It's that when you open your borders to business and these big businesses move in, they're not going to be as considerate about how they will affect, you know, the environment they kind of move into. So I thought it was just worth the mention, just because of the idea of being tied to a culture, which again is a huge theme in Rose of Nevada. And as you said already, a lot of kind of Jenkins films. But yeah, it's a really great film. It's really fun, just really fun.
Remind me of the name again, sorry?
Tampopo. I'll give you my notes afterwards. I don't think.
Yeah, please do. Afterwards. Yeah, I'll seek that out. Who did you buy it for?
Ollie.
Oh, I might ask him to borrow it. Although he lives in Warwick, so it's quite complicated.
Can you post it?
Yeah,
I do have a copy as well. So.
Oh, okay. Well, it might be simpler just to use yours.
I love the idea that when I give it to him, when you come home, you're like, can I
borrow this immediately?
I'll post it back to you.
yeah. Oh man. Tampopo. Okay, yeah. I will watch that because that sounds really nice. Considering how much I liked First Cow as well, I think it's a slight blind spot for me. There's a lot of these films which deal with these sort of the idea of, like, I suppose, culture versus progress in a way. And when I say progress, I mean like the progression of conglomerations or like, I suppose like even like sort of supermarket culture, I suppose, and how they
it's
clash.
sort of innovation, the guardrails of like fiscal growth, isn't it? It's not necessarily to the betterment, although we obviously have enjoyed some of those improvements, of course.
Yeah.
But the idea of it being kind of, you know,
homegrown,
guardrailed by a certain very select strata of people, I find inherently problematic. But anyway,
well, is it because they have they have no personal vested interest in the specifics of, for example, creating the ramen with these specific ingredients? They themselves wouldn't have any interest in that. Are they just kind of like they're more interested in mass producing it, I suppose?
Yeah.
Oh man, okay. What about? So I'm thinking like First Cow then, because I watched it last night, right?
Okay, so it's fresh.
Yeah, and I looked up very, very kind of like ham-fistedly, just like Googled films about the destruction of communities, and it came up, and I was like, right, let's give this one a go. And I saw Kelly Reichardt, and I thought, because you're a huge fan of hers, and I haven't seen nearly as much of her films, I thought it'd be really good to get one of hers in to this discussion, to talk about her a little bit and to talk about First Cow. The film kind of positions literally like a cow as a metaphor, I suppose, for would you say the birth of something or the destruction of something?
I guess simultaneously both, right?
Yeah. Because the film's set on the American frontier, much like Train Dreams, actually. Slightly earlier, I'd say.
Yeah.
Pre-railroad, when homesteaders were basically foraging for food. And so there'd be a lot of game and a lot of berries. And the film follows like a chef, right? Who
Is he a baker?
He's a baker, yeah. And he was born in like Boston or near Boston, and like learnt a trade, and then has moved forward to the frontier where a lot of the ingredients are not readily available, and the community in the film isn't. I mean, it's a real melting pot, isn't it? Of like the indigenous people and people coming from like China and even Hawaii, I think.
Okay.
And so you have this sort of huge community for people from all walks of life, and they're all craving something from home, I suppose. And I think actually going back to food, really, there's a lot of sort of food-centric cultural stuff going on.
Yeah.
The only way you can make stuff that reminds them of home is with milk. And there's like this one rich guy that has a cow, and they go and steal the milk at night from this cow. And the cow is basically meant to represent the birth of, if you would, I guess one word to call it would be like American rabid capitalism or ingenuity.
I think that's something Kelly Reichardt has gone on record in saying, isn't it? It's about the birth of that against the mythology of of old America.
That's right. Yeah, and
which seem to run parallel now, which is always seems a bit strange to me. They're kind of analogous, but
that's true. Yeah, I think America in First Cow is presented as basically slightly virginal, I suppose. The land is being lived off, but in a way that is sustainable, and that is basically about to go. You can kind of tell that that's about to disappear as the kind of like this almost sort of urban sprawl is on the way.
Yeah,
and,
I guess in the eyes of the settlers, it would probably feel sort of Virginia, wouldn't it?
Yeah. It's Oregon, I think, isn't it? Like the Oregon Trail.
Okay.
And they basically start selling these cakes to the rich guy who owns the cow, which I thought was quite funny, but also just the community, and everyone is baffled by how delicious these things are, and they're really popular. So these two guys start raking it in, basically, and it's the kind of it's interesting because the film centers a lot around their sort of friendship and how they interact with each other. It's quite nice, and they're not portrayed as villainous at all.
No.
But at the same time, you can tell that they're starting to sort of get slightly greedy, and like there's a sort of restlessness about the way they want to make more money. Would you agree? I think
I think there's certainly the last and ultimately the kind of most kind of decisive milking. Is when obviously when spoilers they get caught, but and I think there's almost, doesn't one of them say we shouldn't?
Yes.
Yeah.
The cookie, the chef. Cookie in it, which is odd. And he doesn't want to continue because he's got quite a nervous disposition, but his friend is very entrepreneurial, I would say.
Yeah. Very much in the vein, that kind of aspirant, right?
To
sort of be on the level playing field with the person that they're stealing from.
Yes, that's right.
Which speaks to that kind of, I guess, the way it kind of, it kind of spreads from one person to the next, this desire to...
Yeah, that's it. And he kind of...
to be a success.
He gets him on board. And I thought it was interesting how his friend didn't have... The only skill he had was like the gift of the gab, I suppose. He was the salesman. And then you had the kind of talent who was making these like scones, I think they are, early cakes and drizzling them with honey. I just thought it was worth mentioning in this context, because although it's not strictly speaking, not about the death of a community, if anything, it's the birth of one, but it's the birth of...
It's a change, isn't it? It's a change of pace.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, it's the birth of like a modern community, and definitely the death of something a lot more sustainable and graceful, and something that's been around for like hundreds of years before that. And you can kind of there's a thread. There's definitely like a Native American thread. Lily Gladstone's in it actually, briefly.
Oh yes,
She's like Toby Jones's wife in it.
That's right. Yes,
Native American, and it's definitely got that kind of undercurrent of like the death of old values and the birth of like rabid capitalistic American tendencies.
I keep forgetting Toby Jones is in that.
Yeah, he's quite good in it. He disappears into that role, which is unusual for Toby Jones. I think quite often he's very.
I think he's picked on the basis of how he looks. Not, do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Is he in He's in Winter Soldier, isn't he?
Yeah, he is. Yeah,
and I think they would have picked him for that reason, right?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, he's a fantastic actor.
Yeah.
And he kind of plays this, I suppose, like bourgeois.
Well, he's super rich, isn't he? And and it's almost kind of like how the contrast between his living arrangement and everyone else's. Obviously, it would be different given that he's wealthy, but it's almost like a kind of stately home. It's in the middle of this kind of like sprawling wild landscape.
Yeah, and the cow is something that he's imported from like France or something.
And it's almost like a trophy, isn't it? Like something to show off, and his refusal to share it is kind of indicative of that kind of a mindset, isn't it?
That's right. And there's a bit in it where he, not knowing that these two guys are stealing the milk, he shows him the cow. They shows him the cow, and he's like, "Look, I've got this cow." And the cow obviously is very familiar with them, and they start sort of interacting with this guy who has discussions with it when he's milking it. I was like, talks to him. I thought that was a really interesting moment, and one of the reasons why I thought the character's a lot more complex than just being positioned as like greedy capitalists is this guy is like thanking this cow for this milk as he's milking it, and sort of conversing with it. I thought it was quite a special moment in the film. It's very fresh in my mind, this film, actually. Really another really special, very slow paced film.
But her bread and butter in it, I guess.
I'm gonna see Meek's Cut Off soon on the basis of how good that is.
That's my favourite.
Oh, fantastic.
Yeah, no, I'm a big fan of her. I just think it's funny on the face of it. It's a quite dull idea for a film, isn't it? Just a guy milking a cow, but she obviously mines incredible depth from it.
Yeah, and
in a way that doesn't feel kind of in your face, which is obviously the way she goes about her films anyway. It's not about these kind of sweeping gestures or realizations. It's very much about just through these characters living in this environment, it infers enough.
Even the chase bit is quite. It's sort of eschews high drama. It's not really concerned with that.
No,
it's more concerned with the day-to-day existence of these people and
essential for the story. But she doesn't sort of bow to the convention of. Like you say, I mean, we're talking about Michael Bay earlier. I mean, that's a weird sort of thing.
That was off camera, actually. Just If you want to skip back, you're not going
to find it. But obviously, something like that would be, it's a bit of a ridiculous thing to sort of say that she would ever copy his style. But he's the first person that came to mind because of the discussion we had. I like that, and it's funny. Like Meek's Cut Off is the same. There's a lot of tension in that film, but it's not really sort of cultivated in a cinematic way.
Okay,
it's more through the performances and the script.
It's not boring though. Like it's very watchable.
All the more captivating, I think.
I'd recommend it to a great deal of people, not just people that got a film degree. I think. So
highly coveted.
I can't remember where it is. I think I might have lost it. Definitely got it still. As in,
I couldn't tell you, man.
It's in an envelope that says "Do not bend." I remember that.
Oh yeah, red ink.
Yeah.
Good. The quintessential film that kept coming up from my sort of research. Use that term very loosely.
Well,
the notes. It's not actually it's nothing to do with the film.
Proof's in the pudding.
I just wrote my name over and over again. From a distance, you won't see it.
I don't know, mate. These cameras look pretty good.
Oh, I know. I'm slightly worried about that. Last Picture Show.
Oh,
I know you said that you did you
I nearly watched it last night.
You didn't do American cinema at uni, did you?
I did not. No.
Oh, there you go. That's the first time I watched it.
Okay. Yeah. I know it's about oil in Texas, and that's as far as it goes.
Right. Yeah. Not so. I mean, it's kind of more about the closing of a cinema in a small town in Texas.
Oh, really? Okay. I got that wrong.
And how basically those kind of cultural or communal spaces, like, you know, not just cinemas, but like shops, locals. Again, it goes back to these local hubs.
Yeah, right, okay.
You know, and that's how people stay sort of attached to, you know, who they are and where they live, and that sense of pride.
Yeah, right.
You know, comes from that, and it's sort of like the adhesive for that pride are those spaces, and when they go, there's nothing left to share, no enthusiasm, and it focuses particularly on a group of youths, a young Jeff Bridges.
Wow, okay.
Really young.
It's from the 70s, this?
60, late 60s.
Oh, wow, okay. Yeah. Quite early. Yeah. So that is mad in and of itself, because those concepts seem very modern to me.
Yeah.
But the fact that was a sort of theme enough for a film to be made about them in the 1960s is quite interesting.
It's sort of New Hollywood, isn't it? I mean, it's kind of like a New Hollywood idea, isn't it? Kind of the youth kind of struggling to grapple with a sort of reality that they were promised that never came.
Oh, I see.
Which is,
right.
Pretty common theme in a lot of New Hollywood, I guess. But yeah, it's just, again, it's a really sort of, it is kind of about that kind of, I guess that young people by their nature are going to be restless. Yeah. Right. And if you're living in a small town that's sort of crumbling in the kind of post-war American landscape, like a lot of those communities did struggle.
Yeah.
Then it's going to only accentuate that. And as your parents are kind of like pining for what once was, it almost encourages them to kind of fall into kind of more traditional ways of like managing these quite sort of complex problems. And it kind of erodes at the relationships they have with their families, and it kind of distances them even more.
Yeah. Oh, man.
And it's really great. It kind of reminds another film I watched. I can't remember the title of.
The Island? No.
Michael Bay.
Yeah.
Over the Edge, just quickly, is a kind of inversion of that. That's about a planned community.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
One of the kind of, because they had a few of those in America, didn't they? And basically a combination of like poor planning and poor finances.
Like the projects or something? Or
sort of.
Paper towns or something.
Yeah, it's like a town right out in the middle of nowhere. And it's like this planned community, and it's this idea of like escaping kind of urban drudgery.
Yeah.
But because of the failings of planning, or the failings that come from a lack of planning and a lack of investment, it almost becomes a microcosm for the exact problems that they're trying to escape. The film, again, focuses on youths, but the youths in this film are a lot more kind of violent in their resistance to the kind of the old values and ideals, which to them are just failing before their very eyes, and their parents are walking examples of that. They're either like unemployed and struggling with their own demons, or relying on this kind of old school approach. So there's like one community centre that the kids all frequent. A young Matt Dillon is in it.
Oh, really? Okay.
He went through a spate of being in like loads of like films about like
disenfranchised youth.
Yeah, that was his like bread and butter for a long time. The Outsiders and all that kind of stuff. And Rumblefish.
Oh yeah. Tony Scott.
No, Rumblefish is.
He didn't know he's a swordfish. Sorry. Nearly there. Don't worry.
Coppola.
Oh really? Oh yes, that's
I think it is, isn't it?
Yeah, because obviously his. The kind of two big ones, Godfather, Apocalypse Now, and then like all of his other filmography is sort of not as well known.
Yeah, it's strange that it all kind of looms under the sort of shadow of it, doesn't it? It's one of them.
Yeah.
But the kind of the youth in the film are very violent in their resistance to it, and it culminates. Basically, what happens is the police have got obviously deployed in a very kind of conservative fashion, so they have no sympathy for these kids.
Oh right.
Okay. Obviously, because they're bored and they're disaffected and they've got nothing to. No, there's no ambition and nothing to look for. They turn to other avenues,
Okay.
So just petty crime and drug use and all that kind of stuff, and it puts them in the crosshairs of these kind of very morally rigid police officers, and it culminates in the police killing one of the.
Oh wow! Okay.
And
Jesus Christ.
It basically ends. Spoiling films for everyone in this room, but
yeah, sorry.
If you, I don't know if you're going to watch it tonight.
Yeah.
It culminates in basically all the kids ransacking and laying siege to this school that all the parents are having a meeting about. So they trap all the parents in and set it on fire and burn all the cars outside.
Okay.
It becomes like an apocalyptic sort of quite nightmarish end to the film. But it's really good.
Yeah.
It's like really bleak and sad. which is my wheelhouse.
Even better.
Yeah. Saturday Night In. But it's just, again, it fit. We think about like kind of this kind of topic, and you know, and it kind of goes the other way to the Last Picture Show, in the sense that Last Picture Show is about an old community that's dying. Well, this is a new community that's already dead on arrival. You know, because of the same values, the same sort of economic systems pervade. And like, there's like a dad who's just so disconnected from his son, and he's just desperately sort of covetous for kind of investment. He's sort of like tragically fawning after all these rich people who just treat him like shit because they know they can, because they're loaded, and he's desperate.
Oh man!
So it's just quite bleak.
Yeah, no.
And like, he sees his dad like that, and it's obviously one of those kind of formative moments for him.
First time you sort of realise that these people that brought you up are far from perfect.
They kind of like all of us have moments where we just look pathetic.
I just realised my parents are probably listening to this, actually. I mean that in a broad sense, not you specifically. Very, very generous of my particular upbringing.
Didn't say that off camera.
It made me think of, for some reason, like more local to us and Bristol, a lot of these communities, and I've lived in one of them, and I arguably live in one now. I live in like a new build now, but there's quite often these pop-up communities that, like, a housing development happens really quickly, and part of this development is like they'll build shops as well with it, and like they use the same bricks and everything that they've used for the houses for the shops, and it's kind of like, it feels forced. It's like forced on you. It doesn't let businesses naturally pop up and get imbued with people's like interesting ideas. It's like no. That I imagine the film you just talked about is sort of critical of that way of doing things.
The film, it's definitely presented as almost like an alien landscape. Like, all the houses are just odd looking, and there's loads of houses that surround them that are all broken because they've stopped building them because no one's moving in. So that's where the teenagers tend to go.
Okay, there's just these empty spaces.
You know? But it's really great. I sort of stumbled across it on like one of those kind of, I think it was like a Saturday Night In, and I was just kind of like, it gets a bit mindless for you just plugging through film after film, and I'd heard things about it before. But it's really good, really worth a go.
Nice.
Definitely kind of, because I think it was made in response to the kind of growing concerns about youth crime across America. And of course, the response is very much like, well, it can't be anything that the system's done wrong. It has to be a kind of moral failing, a collective moral failing on the part of the youth.
I see. It must be the people that moved in. It's
definitely
not.
Or more broadly across America. I think that's what the film was kind of trying to point the finger at. And the parents are all there baffled by their children because they don't know them. Do you know what I mean? And it's like there's no warmth in their relationships, and the sort of the sort of development they live in reflects that lack of warmth.
Right.
Quite unsettlingly.
Oh man.
Yeah, it's quite a bleak film.
Yeah. It does sound like it. Yeah. Sort of reminds me of the Florida Project a bit.
Yeah. Well, that's another film that came up a lot, actually.
Yeah.
Which is, I guess, you could take that even further with that film, because it's basically built around Disneyland, right? Which is the American dream, right there, right?
The beating heart of it. Beating is. I watched that quite recently because we did Sean Baker and we did Nora.
Oh yeah.
And that was the first time I saw it, and that is just, if you're looking for a film that highlights the difference between an aspirational, what people want a community to be, and what it actually will become, and how that is like the kind of almost perfect film for that and those themes.
There's quite a lot of warmth in that film, though. I think if you were to kind of look at the film, or just like read a synopsis on Wikipedia, you'd think it was quite bleak. But I think there's quite a lot of warmth, and that's something we probably haven't focused on enough, in the sense that despite being sort of besieged by the kind of nature of the world that we live in and how ruthless it can be, I guess, the modernity in a way can be to people. There's almost the warmth in resistance, or maybe it's not like a knowing resistance. It's just living and making the best of it and mucking in.
Yeah.
Which are things that I think it's always worth kind of pointing out. And I think in Florida Project there's a bit of that.
Yeah.
I mean, I might have got it totally wrong, but I feel like there's a warmth. Like William Dafoe's character,
he's very kind to the children, and the film, it's
despite the
shot.
fact he owns it, and he's. There's always going to be question marks around that. Does he own it, or is
he does? Yeah,
it's
it's his complex.
Okay. So he's perhaps not as benevolent as he seems, but
I think he is very lenient with rent, but ultimately he does need to. I think the idea is that he's quite complex and it's like he's struggling, like he needs to make money or at least needs to break even, but he doesn't want to kick them out. And
Right, okay.
And then obviously I think the warmth comes from the children because it's very. You're seeing it from their eyes, aren't you? And you know what's going on because obviously us not being children, we kind of understand what's happening socially and what the line of work that their mother is sort of involved in, but they don't know that, and I think the warmth comes from them.
I think they probably infer more than she realises, though, because kids always do. They know more than they know more than the parents let on. It might, my experience.
I again, I think it's very much one. You've seen it, I haven't. One.
Yeah. Let's bring it a bit closer to home then before we go to Cornwall.
Yeah.
I was thinking Full Monty kept coming up. I think we spoke about that quite a lot.
Yes.
And that's a film that I've always really loved. Even like when I was like a teenager trying to be cool, you wouldn't admit you liked Full Monty when you're a teenager.
No, you wouldn't, because
for some reason
it'll be at school you'd be crucified.
I'd talk about Pulp Fiction and stuff. I was like, I quite like Full Monty. It's like,
get out,
ostracised.
Yeah,
but I really love it, and then this might sound like a strange reason to love it, but I think there's a kind of socially conscious thread through the film.
Oh yeah, definitely. Yeah,
obviously this Sheffield, the death of the kind of steel industry, and
the Thatcher's sort of sweeping over the UK, and the family values at the expense of community values, right?
Well, yeah. I mean, I think I've quoted her on this. Probably given her too much airways. It is, but there's no community. There's no community. There's just a family
something like that.
An
Yeah,
individual.
That's
which is, emblematic of her approach to economic policy, anyway.
Yeah,
but obviously the film is, I guess, dealing with that approach and that kind of loss of community, the death of togetherness, and this kind of dancing troupe is a way of sort of fighting back against that. But I just remember there's a few scenes in the film that are quite bleak, like the guy's trying to kill himself in the car. That's all pitched for laughs in the film, but the last time I saw it, I think I've said this already on the podcast, but I repeat myself all the time anyway. But the last time I saw it, I was like, "Fucking hell!"
Yeah. No, it's just,
hell.
I think a lot of sort of British.
I just remember Robert Carlyle thrusting his crotch at the camera. I don't remember this part.
Yeah, it's the last scene everyone remembers, right?
Yeah,
the calendar girlsy moment. The opposite, I suppose. But no, there's a lead up to that, which does, it sort of meanders between the sort of socially conscious side and the more kind of fun, I suppose, light-hearted, these are men taking their clothes off, ha ha ha, kind of side, which it does actually handle quite well, despite the fact that I think generally there was a tendency for those I guess the like post-British social realism, because they're a little bit more mainstream than
watered
that,
down
right?
massively.
Yeah. I'm thinking Brassedoff as well as another example of that. I love Brassedoff, but actually that's very socially conscious as well. That's directly about the sort of mining communities getting, and then this sort of this as Englanders, we can fight back against this, and we can use our talents to cultivate something new. And it's all about being together and that kind of thing. It's very obviously done, but it doesn't mean it's not a lot of fun to watch, and it doesn't mean it doesn't take those ideas seriously.
No, I think I think predominantly it's a vehicle for entertainment, isn't it? And I think they've got to kind of be a bit of a Trojan horse about the kind of themes that they are selective about. I mean, because social realism for me is great and I love it, but I guess it's one of those things if you're not really, which is a shame because I really hate that idea. I'm not, I think it's good to watch all kinds of things, but I kind of also, I don't know.
The Trojan horse thing's interesting.
I think that's the way you're going to go about it for most people, which is a shame, but also Full Monty is a good film, so I'm not going to sort of. It's
does
not a
it
deal
well?
breaker.
Yeah. As a piece of entertainment, it does it really well. And I imagine when it came, it was very successful when it came out. It was like kind of.
It was massive.
Hailed as
when
a
did
landmark.
It come out? You're good at this.
96.
There we go.
I hope 96. It's 96. I'm going to Google that later, and it's going to be. I'm going to dub it because we've got the technology to dub it.
Yeah. With a different voice.
Yeah. No, definitely worth a mention, Full Monty, and I did, briefly touch on Brassedoff as well. That was one of those DVDs that came free with a newspaper.
Oh right.
And it was like
with a case or just a sleeve.
It was a cardboard sleeve. So
can't do it.
it
Still got it?
No. Oh, you know what? I got so annoyed with the sleeve that I bought it on like the Film 4 DVD version.
Oh yeah,
So
the red ones.
Yeah. So it does now exist with a dual case. Thank God.
I was going to go into more detail with the line of questioning, but it really doesn't bode for interesting listening at
For
all.
our Patreon.
Yeah. How do we store our DVDs? Okay. So I guess for sort of newer listeners, if there are any, we have a kind of a connection to Cornwall, I guess.
Yes, and Jenkin.
The fact that we obviously studied there, and he was one of the lecturers.
Yes.
I didn't really have a great deal to do with him, but that sounds like I hated him. I just mean that wasn't in the courses. That
I think the chips just fell.
Yeah.
The cards fell different.
But
phrase? Well,
and I guess I was thinking, and the reason why I mentioned that is I guess the main reason is to kind of, it made me think about my relationship with the themes in all of his films.
Okay.
Because I often think about his style being sort of synonymous with that kind of mythology of Cornwall. I always think Cornwall has like a mythic quality that nowhere else has, particularly in this country.
Definitely, yeah.
And I wonder if that's because I'm not Cornish that I think that.
Maybe.
And I wondered how, as a result of that, how sort of valid that some of my sort of ideas about the aesthetic of the film marrying so well with that. I don't know what you think about that.
I think it's fine to consider it mythic. I think if anyone asks you what you think of Cornwall when you said mythic, especially someone who's from there, they'd probably be delighted, because it does have and a lot of English, like old communities that are very old or have their values steeped in the past, would delight in that as an adjective.
Yeah, I guess it's probably because it was always kind of because it's so far down. There's almost a distance, isn't there?
There's standing stones. There's like tin.
And I guess it's like
mines,
the Gaelic connection as well.
Yeah,
so they're part of a collection of obviously
areas of the UK that adopted
and
this
beyond.
language.
Yeah.
I might be getting this completely wrong, but the kind of Celtic, that sort of that language exists very much there and in Wales and in Scotland. And not necessarily in like the England bit.
No,
I know Cornwall is part of England, but it juts out a little bit, doesn't it?
I think
it's a
culturally,
peninsula.
I think culturally it's quite different. I think it has quite a different. I don't think it's always been as connected historically, and I think that might be part of the reason for that.
Yes,
that kind of feeling of it almost feeling sort of distant.
Yeah.
I mean, also the fact it takes like 14 hours on National Express coach to get home.
I was going to say, I think the motorway ends, so like it's one of the few kind of counties in England that just doesn't.
I'll just go to Derby. It's taken me 14 hours.
Oh mate, that's crazy. Do you have to go via London?
Birmingham.
Oh, okay. And
which kind of makes sense.
Yeah.
Veering off into more thrilling subject matter here, but yeah. I remember. Yeah, we did that journey once, and my partner had. She was sick.
Oh, really? She was unwell.
Both ends.
Oh, mate, that is.
She basically, I had to sit with my foot against the door of the National Express toilet for like 14 hours. I'm not saying as if I struggled in any way. It was obviously.
No, that's tough.
I think how I feel. My foot is really.
That's one of the most stressful situations I could think of. Is having like a sort of stomach infection.
I hope she won't mind mentioning. I mean, she doesn't listen anyway, so it's fine.
You haven't mentioned her by name, right?
No. Well, I haven't before. But, doesn't matter. I think that remoteness contributes to that. But I was just wondering if I'd kind of fetishized it slightly in that regard. I don't know.
I mean, I'm not from Cornwall myself, so I have no idea. I think it's okay to discuss it.
I wasn't saying I wasn't I was particularly worried about it. I wasn't going to keep you up at night, but I just wondered about that kind of outsider perspective and having lived there, and obviously, I just think it was interesting because that is such a big part of his style. And it's, from his like short films, and obviously he's got these 3, films that are far more kind of broadly or nationally, internationally recognizable.
Yes,
pieces of work. And
especially Bait, I'd say.
Yeah.
Bait was very successful and
massive.
BAFTAs and stuff.
I mean, I was really, it's quite nice in a way that, like, I don't know a film, certainly a BFI-backed film that has so much enthusiasm around it. Yeah. Every time he makes a film, there's like a genuine buzz that seems to kind of go further than just the kind of like people like us.
Yeah,
You know,
I think like Mark Commode is a huge admirer of him, obviously, and like his reach will generate interest, I think, and that might be a big reason why. But yeah, it's delightful, and also I think there is a market for things made in a very homemade fashion.
I guess something more tactile. You mean?
Yeah,
I
like
mean,
granular
yeah,
detail.
yeah.
Film stock, and the story behind the making of it is almost as important as the film itself. Made it with a wind-up camera. Like, I've got to see that. How's that going to look? How's that going to sound? Is it going to be engaging? You know, I think that's another reason why his reach is so.
I guess we talked about it before. The kind of how cinematic technique is being increasingly marketable.
Yeah.
Particularly in the kind of through the lens of, as you know, things get increasingly modernized to the point of becoming overly slick.
Yeah.
That people are almost yearning. Talk about practical effects all the time, right? People are always like, "Oh, practical effects." That's, you know, almost immediately a film will go up in people's estimations if it's practical.
Yeah, whether that be actually true or not.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, but I guess the actual cinematic approach, which I hadn't considered in terms of the equipment used, might be a big part of that as well.
I think so. I definitely think there's a market for it, like vinyl or something.
Yeah,
it's a similar thing. Yeah, but the connection to Cornwall is palpable in all three of his films. More so mythically with Ennie's Men, I think.
Definitely.
That's where he really tapped into that side of it.
Yeah.
Although Bait does have smatterings of it as well. It's more community focused. Ennie's Men kind of eschews the community, and now we're back in.
It's a bit of both, isn't it?
It is definitely, because there's a supernatural element to this. It's a kind of well trodden ground, actually. The time slip. I'm thinking Groundhog Day. I'm thinking that Palm Springs film more recently.
Yeah, I guess it's something that people wouldn't have expected from him or from a film set in Cornwall.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? And I guess, and it kind of accentuates that kind of otherworldly feeling that his style brings.
Yeah.
And even his dialogue as well. Like, I was thinking this, I read a few reviews and people were quite sort of harsh on the dialogue.
Oh, really?
And I've always kind of felt that.
Okay. Didn't bother me.
I kind of feel like that might be somewhat accentuated by the sound mix, which is obviously very deliberate in the sense that it's
all post-synced.
Yeah, exactly. So again, to me that works, and I think, but I feel that the films have this kind of simultaneously kind of like very human, but they are quite sort of, again, going back to this fetishized view of the technique, but it does have this kind of old feel, this kind of distant. Do you know, the same way you look at, I think we talk about this a lot, but the footage from like, I don't know, the early 1900s.
Yeah, like newsreel style.
Yeah. Well, I watched, you know, the film, the train pulling into the station, you know, and the people coming in, you know.
Yeah.
It's like it feels so distant, you know.
Stepping into the past.
Yeah.
Watching an artifact.
And it's that kind of what you I guess you associate that with the past. And it creates this kind of weird, I think ultimately really fruitful kind of sort of combination of techniques that really suit the film's themes more broadly as well. Yeah,
because we start at present day, and yet the thing you are watching is already inhabiting a kind of distant past, like so you kind of feel like you're watching something that was created 50 years ago.
Yeah,
and then when the characters move back in time, you're already there.
Yeah,
and you know, so obviously, like a lot of other films would kind of, you know, like I'm thinking like Back to the Future. You have that. I love Back to the Future, but you have that sort of scene where he's kind of looking around Hill Valley and everything sort of 50s, and it kind of makes a point of like pointing out him picking a newspaper up, and it's pans across to you know, that kind of.
It has to do that. Though,
it does, and I don't think it would work any other way. But this is kind of more like it kind of leans into it with its visual stylings instead, so it doesn't need to. I mean, you have shop fronts that are different, and the pub's really busy. Yeah, that's all you get really. Yeah, and the cars, and that's it. Like, and it doesn't linger on that. It invites you to realise what's going on through the texture of it instead. I kind of admired that for it.
Yeah, it's a much more inviting prospect, I think.
Yeah.
And the themes sit with you a lot more.
Yeah.
Sort of keen to, because I remember when we spoke about the film via voice message, as we tend to, especially if we don't see the film together, you were saying a lot about that kind of duality in the way that it treats nostalgia.
Yes.
So you've got the two principal characters, but both of which, one of which is not, I'm assuming isn't local. he's an outsider.
Yes.
That was really a bizarre way to include him. He's sort of sprinting in as if he's running away from something.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
And you've got George Mackay's character, who's obviously Cornish, born and bred, living in a kind of increasingly dilapidated
Fix his roof.
Yeah. Which again is there's a lot of kind of very overt visual metaphors in the film, but again, I don't think, like the dialogue, I think it suits. I don't know, there's something almost otherworldly about the way they're presented that it kind of injects a sense of life into them.
With the roof, it's not a line. It's like cutaways to it dripping and other stuff's going on.
That kind of quite busy sound design in those scenes, isn't it?
Yeah, it's almost like the film is trying to hold it back, and yet the sound design is doing the opposite, and it's like this is drip, and no matter what they're talking about, like you can't help but like, what is that? And it's meant to irritate you, and it's meant to make you feel like your own house is leaking. And in terms of the story, it's a good way of illustrating this guy's going to need a lot of money very quickly.
Yeah, exactly. And in a place, in very much like the films we've spoken about, that there isn't a lot of money to be had, because it's a fishing town, right? A form of thriving fishing town that is now on its knees as a result of.
That's it.
I mean, it doesn't sort of go into specific detail, but it's very much kind of, I guess, suggested that the world has moved on. Beyond this kind of small town, small sort of business approach to fishing.
Yeah. It's going to get either imported, or there's going to be like industrial sized trawlers doing getting all the stock out of the sea, and they're probably going to be able to, because of how much the sort of volume of fish they'll be catching, they'll be able to flog it for cheaper, and then these guys are just going to be left behind. But
I guess it's a sort of trauma that's accentuated by the loss of two men who were kind of on one of the last fishing boats.
That's right. The roseofnevada.
Yeah. Which, by the way, is an Elvis film.
Is it?
Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah,
I don't know.
I don't know if that's a reference to Elvis.
Maybe. I mean,
I don't know.
Makes sense. I mean,
I think it's an Elvis film. I didn't really do a lot of reading. Should have done, as usual, didn't I? Anyway. But yeah, no, the film kind of it sort of, that trauma is it's reinforced, I guess, and it's given a kind of much more kind of potent human edge. By the sort of dealing with loss. Yeah. So you've got the elderly couple whose son disappeared. Oh no.
Yes. Yeah, that's right. They live next door.
Yeah. Well, does he not throw himself off the cliff?
Yeah, that's right.
Yes, he does.
Sorry, everyone. Yeah. No, there's tragedy occurring, and
it's in there.
I'm kind of hesitant to give it away, but the fact that these two men who are kind of for various reasons forced back onto this fishing boat to kickstart this sort of industry again a little bit.
Yeah, because the boat sort of turns up for no reason.
Yeah, the boat.
Really terrible job of explaining what happens.
It's okay. Go and watch it. It's very good. But it's what I thought was really interesting was how the film dealt with the kind of trajectory. Sorry, I should say of these two characters. One of which, once they're in the past, very much wants to get back to the present, because he's got a wife and he's got a relationship and a roof to mend. Whereas the other one is enamored with this past, where all of a sudden this community is thriving and depending on these two young men. So he is very much, no, I want to stay here, and because why would I want to go back to the present? This is so much
present
better.
Is shrouded in mystery, but it's implied enough that he's got nothing to go back to.
Yeah, and he also implied that he's sort of suffering with a substance abuse, sort of, or I say substance abuse, he's kind of like a budding alcoholic, I should say, really, and that sort of largely disappears once he's back in the 90s as well, because all of a sudden he's got something else to occupy him, and the community, like I say, is depending on him, and so he feels a sort of a duty, I suppose, and that's what was missing. Whereas the other character, I suppose, is willing to give up that for what he had.
Yeah, his present situation,
family.
as bleak as it is, he has a family there.
Exactly,
right?
the family values. So you've got community values and family values. You've got like,
Almost-
Thatcherite.
yeah.
And
Well, it's almost as if they're part of the same thing, but they're put against each other. I guess
yes.
I'd not thought of it that way.
You've got really clear motivations for both of them, and yet they're clashing, and it's unresolvable, and it all ties into this trauma that's happened and the disappearance of this boat. I thought it was a nice way to wrap it up.
Yeah.
But, that was one of the most delightful things about the film was its handling of those themes, and they were really, really not like obvious, but very like if you kind of sitting back and watching it, you're able to kind of pick up on it subconsciously, and there's a lot of tension that's generated from it. So
memory kind of haunts and encourages the film or the characters simultaneously, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Because you really get the sense, particularly at the start of the film, that there's all that kind of fishing sort of. Everyone's house is kind of like it almost seems stereotypical, but that it's kind of all of their ornaments and everything. It's very kind of nautical.
Yes, that's right. Yeah.
It's almost kind of you get the sense of this, and it's all kind of dusty or cobwebby, and it's sort of the idea that this they're still holding on to that memory of what it was, and the fact that, as you say, those small boats sustained an entire community.
Yeah,
and how I don't know, like I guess like the hope. I guess the hope is in the past, but simultaneously, George Mackay's character sees hope in his family. So, irrespective of the kind of broader socio-economic problems that are facing his community, he sees hope in that anyway.
Yeah. And it was a much more. I think even Bate had a very clear and defined. I suppose you could call it. A manifesto, maybe a little bit extreme, but it does know what it wants to say to you, and it has the two warring factions, but I think its intent and what it kind of wants to say is quite clear.
Yeah,
and that people maybe shouldn't have second homes in Cornwall, like that was but this one is a little bit more complicated, and I admired it for that.
I guess it's not the idea that you shouldn't come and stay, but it's almost that people are profiting off the struggle that community are having by hoovering up. So there's no opportunity for them to kind of dust themselves off and try and find an alternative. So as the money's coming in, but it's very temporary, or a lot of it is circulating out of the local economy, especially if there's people buying second homes or not living there for very long or anything like that. So, I thought, I think that's, it's not particularly... I don't know, it's not like it doesn't say like never come to Cornwall.
No,
it's not saying that, is it? Obviously,
no,
but it is saying
that
there is a kind of huge, I guess, social, cultural, and communal cost to the kind of way things are. Again, it kind of ties back to sort of Tampopo. Consider the notes again. But the idea of kind of external or foreign investment, having significant drawbacks for the community and that sense of pride that comes out, and the way they try and fight back against that, it becomes more ugly as a result of the kind of the how else can we fight this if not the ugly way?
I think the return of the boat in Rose of Nevada is obviously it has a kind of supernatural context, but it's almost inviting you to think maybe going back into the past might be a really wonderful thing. I don't know,
it's a comfort blanket, isn't it?
Yeah. The fact
but
that
it's always slightly tinged though.
Yeah.
The bits when he goes off with that woman, and it's like, well, it's not. But you're not. There's a kind of, there's something quite sinister.
Oh yeah, completely. The whole film has a sort of undercurrent.
I wonder if that's
sinister.
maybe I'm taking too much from it, but I wonder if that's kind of something about the kind of the excessive way in which we're encouraged to be nostalgic about things, and how that's almost kind of cannibalistic. Almost, you're kind of eating just your memories to the point where they kind of lose all recognition.
Yeah,
and you become almost like a passive. Your modern self is passive in your own memory. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. That's. I just thought of T2 again. That's like a huge theme in that film.
Yeah.
Not Terminator 2, Trainspotting.
Oh right, I think it's like Terminator 2. I was going to see how you're going to sort of
Tourist
put those films together. Yeah.
No. It just the idea that you're
if anything, that's what Rose of Nevada was lacking. Schwarzenegger.
Yeah, I was a bit annoyed about that.
Yeah.
Maybe the next one set in Barcelona. Come on, Mark. I think there is always a sort of sinister undercurrent to romanticizing the past, because it is romanticizing the past. Like, I think
it's excessive, isn't it? It's the whole point of it. You're using it to kind of deal with your own. I mean, obviously, we all, memory drives all of us in various ways, doesn't it? But I mean, there's nothing wrong with being wistful. But I think that the drive and desire to do so is more apparent when you are in a situation of difficulty, struggle, boredom.
Yeah, 100%.
And by relying on that, it almost becomes a sort of a crutch for that, and then it starts to lose value. And I think the film communicates that really well, because it is, it's pretty furtive ground. The economic struggles that they're living through. It's obvious that they would just be thinking back, particularly if a lot of that pain comes from loss, losing people. That's the only thing you've got left is your memory of them, and that's tied to the community and the industry that's sort of long dead. A very textured film, and again, that's very trite to say, but given that the film is 16mm hand cranked, but I thought that a lot of the opening of the film is about these kind of, again, it's like rusted metal chains and like the carcasses of boats and all of these kind of like surfaces that are kind of just forgotten and no one would give a second's glance to.
Yeah.
And I quite like that. I thought that married really well with the broader themes of the film, in the sense that, so much of this used to be kind of pulled by the hard-working, plentiful hands, and now it's just left and no one even cares or looks at it.
Yeah.
It felt like a good opening. Also, I think it's his best soundtrack, best scored film.
Agreed.
He does the scores for himself, doesn't he?
Yeah. They do get, I mean, in terms of technical achievement, they get better with each. Because Bait, black and white, I as someone who my job used to be like spotting problems with stuff, like I kept spotting problems, but a lot of the problems were probably intentionally left in, because I think that's part of his process. Less in Annie's Main, didn't notice any in Rose of Nevada. I thought it was actually a really, like, for all of its grit and like kind of boots on the ground approach, it looked really good.
Beautiful looking film, isn't it?
And
all of his
really
films
well.
are.
And the fact that it's apparently just him with the camera and a tripod.
27 seconds per.
Max, which is crazy.
Yeah.
It's really like, you can tell Jenkin as a filmmaker behind the camera is getting more astute and getting more bold, and not afraid to, sprinkle a little bit of action in there as well. There's some storm sequences in this, which really held up. Like, quite often independent films can struggle with that sort of sequence, but it really, like, it was.
It didn't cut to the wide, which is good. We talk about that quite a lot. Like, a lot of films feel the need to cut to a wide, and it just looks shocking. It's like CGI back. Yeah, well, exactly. God. Just when I thought I cleansed my memory of that film. But I think just by keeping it locked in, I am kind of interested to see, because obviously this film would have had a higher budget given who's involved.
Yeah.
I'd be interested to know. I mean, I guess is it entirely BFI funded? I'm not entirely sure.
I think so. Yeah.
So maybe they're probably a lot better at honouring the kind of the processes of the, because that's why they're backing him, right? Because of his previous two films. But interested to know. I mean, be a fly on the wall in his next film. Should that, typically, filmmaker, as they get bigger, the films tend to mirror that.
Yeah.
So that'd mean bigger budget, maybe. Although Annie's Main felt like a kind of, not like a step back in a kind of artistic sense, but it, and it made, to me, it was,
no extras needed.
Yeah, well, exactly.
Yeah.
But to me, that I really, that felt bold in itself. That obviously, you had this quite kind of narratively, kind of not familiar, but the structure of the film felt quite. It's very clear, isn't it? As you said before. So then to go to Annie's Main feels like almost like a way of saying, no, I'm not going to be pigeonholed. Like a lot of filmmakers are, where the more successful they become, the more kind of ambitious. And in some cases, the more kind of paint by numbers their films can become as a result. And I know like a lot of studio filmmakers will have, I guess their face challenge is different to Jenkin, because, he's working in a very different way and a different approach. But I just wonder what that looks, like a film of his that would have a higher budget.
Yeah. How much will he stay true to?
Because like roots? Film producers want what you have in your previous films, but they don't want it at the same time. Like,
yeah.
like loads of filmmakers who go over to like big franchise filmmaking, and they're picked because of their particular approach to something, and then that just gets completely sanitized.
Yeah.
So, and I'm not saying that he will end up making anything like that or go jumping that far. I don't think he would.
Avengers Doomsday, Mark Jenkin. Yeah.
But I don't know. I just think it's interesting to see how that sort of plays out. I don't want to say battle because that might not be the right phrase, but
Don't know. Yeah, I'm assuming he'll make another film. I really hope he does, and I hope that it has the same texture and the same, delight and charm that the previous three have. I mean, I'm also genuinely quite curious to see where he sets it as well.
yeah.
Can he stay in Cornwall? Do you think his instincts will pull him away from that?
I don't think there's any pressure on him to leave.
Mm.
I think he can still make films there that feel fresh and original. And
Yeah.
people go, this again. Do you know what I mean? I don't know, because he does find ways to consistently innovate that approach. I think a lot of filmmakers would struggle to do what he's done in terms of the approach. I don't know. It feels like a lot of the choices he's made in terms of the way he's gone about each of the films, and obviously the development of his approach that you've mentioned. It still feels like with each development, he's, that there's so much room there still.
Yeah,
he finds ways to make it kind of interesting, and I think that's a massive achievement in itself. Coming from someone that has very little technical ability, that probably won't sound like much of a compliment, but I just think there's a lot of life in it.
Yeah.
And I think also when we talk about bigger actors like George McKay and what's the fellow's name?
I can't remember, but he might be Bond.
Let's call him Bond.
Callum, his name.
Callum
is.
Turner.
Callum Turner. Yeah. I'm on a first name basis with him, so I just call him Callum.
Cal.
Yeah, Cal. Yeah.
I think they were both just more. I think they're actually quite into film.
Yes.
So I think they were always going to do it. I don't think it really matters.
It's great that he's getting this caliber of talent in his films.
Yeah.
I really hope
the
that
performances
continues.
across the board are superb. So.
Yeah, and they both spoke really fondly of the process as well and the location, and apparently they both really miss Cornwall.
It's all kind of you're always kind of a bit skeptical to it because marketing.
That wasn't a Guardian.
It seems
article,
quite
but
genuine. So
hopefully.
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah, great film. Really
very
enjoyed
good.
it.
Yeah. Seek it out if you can.
So, do you think next then?
Doomsday, Avengers Doomsday. It's happening. Jenkin Doomsday. No. Sorry, go on.
No, I just wonder, because you asked that question of me. I want to sort of flip it back to you.
Oh yeah.
Do you think he could stay, or do you want him to go somewhere else?
I kind of do want him to go somewhere else.
Okay.
Not necessarily out of England. I just think maybe, again, speaking from zero filmmaking, limited filmmaking experience, I think him maybe like setting it elsewhere, and there'll be a whole new set of themes he can explore. Maybe still rooted in the idea of community and the destruction of community, but maybe researching how that occurs elsewhere in England. I think that could be interesting.
Yeah.
But equally, if he kind of feels, as I'm sure he does, an attachment to Cornwall and
His homeland.
yeah, exactly. And if there's fertile ground there for, I don't think he would be the kind of filmmaker to repeat himself. So
No, I don't think so either. I think it's interesting. I think there's something he's tethered to it a lot more. I think about Andrea Arnold, for example, when she went to America.
Yeah.
I actually quite liked American Honey.
American Honey, yeah.
I thought I quite liked it, but
that's good.
I don't think she's I don't think she's as beholden to the home turf as he is.
Yeah,
I think his connection's a lot more fixed and specific. Not that in any way that's me ragging on Andrea Arnold. I love her work.
A lot of British filmmakers tend to go across the pond or
Maybe you could
overseas.
do like a sort of Werner Herzog thing, like a Strozek kind of thing. It starts in Cornwall, and the person from Cornwall moves to America.
A
or
road
something.
movie.
Yeah.
Yeah. Jenkin, you heard it from me first.
Yeah.
Screenplay credit.
Well, me.
Danny. But I want the screenplay credit.
Yeah, you can have it. Yeah. Right.
And a percentage point as well of the profits. Only me. No.
Outro?
Outro.
Good.
Questing the cinematic void.
There we have it then.
Yeah.
Rose of Nevada.
Yeah.
Really enjoyed discussing that.
Good to cleanse the kind of musical biopic Michael episode we did last week.
It was astonishing how much I disliked ingesting. I just don't like those sorts of films anyway, but it was nice to talk about something I felt.
I enjoyed chatting about the chimp.
Apart from the chimp, and Better
Bubbles,
Man.
yeah.
Actually,
it was quite a chimp-centric episode, given
it
it
was
wasn't about chimps.
No, very much. It wasn't about primates, but it was about musical
found a way in.
biopics.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was. That was Better Man was probably the best thing that came out of us discussing musical biopics. Actually, for me, because I quite enjoyed it. Like I was surprised by how much I enjoyed it.
Yeah.
What we doing next week? We might have a fork in the road. That we need to resolve.
So we've got 2 films: Hokum,
horror film, Adam
Horror film.
Scott.
and then Devil Wears Prada 2.
Yeah, it's which I'd rather watch Hokum because I'd probably am going to enjoy it more. But I think it'd be more interesting to discuss Devil Wears Prada 2 because it's both out of our comfort zones and it's apparently very popular. The first one is like stood the test of time.
It's quite beloved, isn't it? The first one?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Meryl Streep, Anne Hathaway, like Meryl Streep at the height of her career, I think, like 2006 kind of.
So we're going to flip a coin.
Yeah, we're going to flip a coin. Should we just heads Devil Wears Prada, tails Hokum?
Go for it.
Okay. It's tails, so we are going to do Hokum.
Hokum.
Hokum it is. And we'll think of a theme after we've seen it. Yeah.
Can't we feel slightly gutted we're not going to do Devil Wears Prada now for some reason? I don't know.
I think. I mean, it's not too late. We could still do it.
Can we go against the coin? Kind of negates the whole process.
Yeah, but also the coin can sometimes be indicative of where we want to go. So maybe we should.
Or maybe we should just not say and just release the next episode.
Let's do it.
Let's do
that.
Yeah.
So you don't know what's coming next. There we go.
Nice.
I won't keep that because it's not mine.
Royalties.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well.
Thank you.
That's it. Thank you to everyone for listening as usual.
Thank you very much.
And thanks to everyone here. Thanks guys for
letting us use the
us up.
studio.
Yeah.
Break the fourth wall there. There are other people in the room.
Yeah. First time for us as well doing that.
Absolutely. Yeah, really enjoyed it. So
Yeah,
thank
really
you.
nice. Yeah, thank you.
Catch you in the next one.
Yeah, look after yourselves.
Cheers.